Laura is a senior software engineer at Civica in Belfast. She is an advocate for women in tech. She's a Bring It On ambassador, inspiring young people to consider a future in IT. And really, I think her story is informational and inspirational. So we're really looking forward to hearing from Laura. Laura, firstly, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and the company that you work for?
Sure, yeah. Well, as you said, I'm a senior software engineer at Civica. Now, Civica are a global company. We have offices all around the world, but our main kind of area of focus in delivering our software is sort of central and local government, health and care, housing, education, regulated markets, even just the criminal justice system and stuff. We have such a wide range of things that we do. It's impossible to say, this is what we do, because we do pretty much everything. I work as a senior software engineer in the Belfast office. So what does a senior software engineer do? I do a little bit of everything at the moment. My day can involve coding, it can involve meetings, it can involve design meetings or things like that there. So it's a really, really kind of it's taking part in the whole software life cycle, basically. So yeah, no 2 days are the same, and that's a good thing.
Very good. And we wanted to learn a wee bit more about you, Laura. So if you, what I wanted to ask is, if you told your younger self that you'd end up being a software engineer, what do you think she would say?
Oh, I'd probably say, what's a software engineer?
That wasn't anything that was on your radar, really. You were considering career options.
I mean, I came in through an apprenticeship route, and let's just say I was a relatively elderly apprentice in the stereotype of things. So yeah, I've been around for a while. I all my schooling was before Google and things like that there. So
tell us about about your story. So where did you start off? What was your background in, and how actually did you come to IT, and why on earth did you, when you didn't know what a software engineer was back in the day, did you decide to come into IT?
Well, as I say, I'd never really, when I was choosing GCSEs, when I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, it wasn't really something on my radar. My big brother was doing stuff in that area, but it wasn't something I actually wanted to be an architect, believe it or not. When I was picking my GCSEs, that was it. But yeah, you grow up and you move, and things change. So I ended up doing a GMBQ in business instead of A levels, and then I did a HND in marketing. So from that I went into administration, obviously. Basically, after I finished Biffy, as it was then, I started temping and ended up at the Southeastern Health and Social, I think it's Belfast Trust now, but all these names have changed. I worked as a home care coordinator, so I was coordinating home helps between about 550 home helps and about 500 clients, so that was an organizational challenge in itself. And then from that, I did that for a while, and I kind of felt stagnating, and then the opportunity came up to take over the Cash Converters franchise in East Belfast. Being not being risk averse and wanting a new challenge, I took over the shop and sort of ran it for just under 10 years. That was interesting in itself, sort of being, mid-20s and running a shop in East Belfast, and and retail and everything. So it was a challenge, and being the boss as well. You're HR, you are finance, you don't have any departments when you're a very small business. So that was interesting. Unfortunately, the economic downturns and the fact that the shop was about 200 yards from Naomi Long's office in the middle of flag protests and things like that unfortunately, the business went under. So yeah,
Uh,
so rule in life, failure is always an option. So yeah, so at that stage, I had a very young daughter. She was only sort of 18 months, 2 years old, and my mum, who had MS, um, was getting worse and worse and worse. She was bedbound. Her care was turning into 24/7. Now we lived with her, so I, I basically stepped back and took a career break, as they say, and I nursed her. And about 18 months later, she passed away, which was hard.
yeah.
But the nursing of her and the management of highly complex medical needs was, yeah, it's probably the thing that's given me the most experience and the most useful skill
Yeah.
in my careers to date. So yeah, so she passed away. Sort of once I'd kind of got over that, I was like, okay, I don't idle well, so I need to be doing something. So that had taken up a lot of my time, as well as being a new mum and stuff
Hmm.
as well. So I started chatting to my brother. As I said, my brother's in tech, so I started chatting to him, and I thought, well, as everything you said, Sarah, it's a growth industry in Northern Ireland. It's there's so much opportunity, and the pay is good. So I thought, well, I didn't want to go back into retail. I knew that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd done my time, but yeah, so I started. He was like, well, there's Code Academy, here's a whole pile of free online resources, and give it a go. And so some Ruby on Rails tutorials, and there's so many free resources out there that
Yeah.
all you need is a laptop and a keyboard, and it's all done in your browser. So I poked around at that, and how do we go at that, and thought, yeah, this is quite cool. I quite like this. It's not just logic; it's also creativity, and it piqued all those things and kept me interested. So it got to the point where I needed to find a job. The university route wasn't an option for me because I couldn't afford
Hmm.
it. I couldn't afford the
Yeah.
time, and I couldn't afford the fees and things. So I started looking actually at the kind of makers academies, the boot camp kind of things. And again, they were a lot of money. They were over in London, blah, blah, blah. And then I came across the Belfast Met Apprenticeship.
Hmm.
And I thought, why not? As I do, let's try it. And so yeah, I went through it was the level 3 apprenticeship at that stage. The level 5 wasn't kind of available then, so I went through the process for that. So that was a couple of aptitude tests, and then filling out the application forms, and interviewing with the companies. And thankfully, Civica had the good they took on a 35-year-old female apprentice, essentially, which could have been it was a risk in itself, but yeah, and from that I haven't looked back since, essentially.
Amazing. Why
Yeah.
not? Like, obviously they seen something in you, Laura, and like you're a woman of amazing resilience as well, and for coming back after everything that you've been through. So really
That's
amazing.
yeah. Kudos to my mother and father who brought us
Uh-huh.
all up to say you can do anything, and that's okay, and that's why I love being part of Bring It On, being an ambassador, and going out and talking about this, because you can do it. You just
Hmm.
everybody just give it a go. Failure is always an option, and you just
Yeah.
try the next thing. So it's not for everybody, but you should try it if you want to.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And really, why would you recommend an apprenticeship? Like, what do you think was good about taking that particular route for you?
I have never been an academic, shall we say.
Hmm.
I learn by doing.
Yeah.
That's where I'm in my happy place. Throw me in at a deep end and let me figure my way up. But so that the style of learning, the fact that I was going to be in work and getting that work experience and get my foot in the door. To be honest, half the battle is getting your foot in the
Yes.
door.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was no university fees, that I was going to be paid to study. And now, obviously, while you're studying, the pay is not, it's an apprenticeship wage,
Yes,
but
of course. Yeah.
it ramps up fairly quickly once you finish up. So yeah, but so I was able to come out of it without any debt and with a full-time permanent job in software development. And so it suited my style of learning, and it suited my financial and so it was the perfect route for me, essentially.
I know. Well, I think you're right. Like there are going to be different routes that suit different people, and even when I'm out talking to young people, I would say if they're really sure about IT, and they might be saying, "I'm going to go to university and I'm going to do this and this," and I was like, "Well, have you thought about an apprenticeship?
Yeah.
You'll get your experience, you will get your qualifications, which you can then pursue and top up if you want." So it's such a great option, but everybody's different, and there is a different route.
That's it.
For
and I suppose
everybody.
I've worked with all of those routes you've talked about earlier. I've worked in Civica in the Belfast office. I've worked with people that have come through those routes. Civica are amazing about bringing on placement students, apprenticeships, graduates, and feeding in from the Met and stuff as well. So not having a degree is not a barrier to entry, and that's so important to get out there.
I know. I think they're totally right. There's a lot of fear around getting into the industry that is inaccessible if you don't have a certain level of education. And again, that's something I suppose you probably speak about a lot when you're out and about talking to young people, Laura, is that you don't need to have a degree to get into the industry. There are other ways in, like the likes of the apprenticeship or the other courses that are offered at further education colleges as well. So really want to ask you, how did you feel? I'm sure, I know you seem to be a person that's no fear, but
I wouldn't go that far.
What would you say, like, if somebody's really kind of not sure or unsure, but they want to give it a go? What would your advice be to somebody who wants to get into the tech sector and who maybe is starting again? What are your top tips?
Top tips. I mean, as I mentioned, the free online resources, even some of the courses that you're running at the moment, in the Met and things like that. There are try it before you buy it, basically. And talk to people. The meetups. Okay, there's not so many in-person meetups at the moment, but there's online communities. There's the Slack, Northern Ireland Tech Slack community. There are just get out there, speak to people, and give it a go in your own time. It doesn't have to be a full-time thing. It's I suppose I knew from doing a few of the different tutorials that it was something that I wanted to, that was the key to me deciding to go down this route. And then once you do decide, then you need to figure out which way's best for you.
Yes, I know.
So that's the difficult bit, actually. I mean, it was fairly clear for me because I had I couldn't go to university, I couldn't do this, couldn't do that. So it was the route was fairly clear to me. Now, interestingly, I wasn't even aware of the apprenticeships existing in Northern Ireland. It was completely by accident that I came across it.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, but the universe will take you wherever you're meant to be. Kind of thing, So it's but ever since then I have not stopped bleeding on about apprenticeships, because I want people to know about that, and about that it is a really, really valid and quick way into the industry. So
no, you're totally right.
As I say, just try the free stuff. That'll tell you fairly quickly whether you want to code or not. But the caveat there being also is that there's so many different roles. So maybe you're coming from an arts background and you want to do UX design. There's courses for it. Maybe you like. I'm trying to think what else. There's so many. That's the problem. Business analysis.
Yes.
Do you like digging down into the detail and eking out from the customer? What the actual requirements are. All of it involves both creativity and logic. So if those kind of things interest you, then you're going to find your way. But there's so many diverse roles. It doesn't have to just be code. I went down that route because that's where I started from. I code very little at the moment because I'm moving into a product ownership, product management role. But yeah, it's just, I said, don't just think because you don't like code that you can't get into the industry. There's just so many different things
Yeah.
that don't require that in-depth technical knowledge to do it.
Although that is actually a question that we would get asked a lot, or when you ask a room of people, what do you think about when you think about roles in IT, and they'll say coding.
Coding, yeah.
It's like,
I don't code at the moment.
there's a whole,
Yeah.
like as I said, there's a whole array of different pathways that you could take. Like
Yeah.
there's not just one route, but no, very, very correctly said, Laura. It's just depends on where you're interested in, where your strengths lie. I suppose another question I want to ask you is, like, sometimes people will have like a little piece of advice or encouragement or something that somebody's said or given to you. Is there anything really that like a piece of advice that somebody's given you that you would like to share?
In relation to the tech industry, yeah, well, especially when you're talking about software development and things. I mean, it was actually about probably the first or second week of my apprenticeship. No, it was after the boot camp. It was it was just after anyway, it was the very early days of the apprenticeship. And I was sitting in work and I was whirling through a Pluralsight course. So Pluralsight's an online training platform. It's really, really, really good. And so I was learning C# essentially, having pretty much never had heard about it before that. But we use it a lot in Civica. So it's a computing language, and the instructor on there, because I'm a bit of a control freak by nature, but the instructor on there was said something that rang true and actually just helped me settle and get on with it. It's like, accept you will not know everything, because the tech industry, even the frameworks, the code, it changes so rapidly, and can be quite overwhelming at times, and the amount of things you can do with it and the areas you can go into. But if so he's like, just accept that you won't know everything, which was hard for me, but because I like but yeah, it's and that rang true with me. And then once that happened, or once I settled myself to that, it was a lot easier to kind of knuckle down and focus on the learning. And I suppose another piece of advice is, once you do get your foot in the door, find yourself a mentor, find yourself an advocate, and just because I would have been nowhere today without the people that I work with. My colleagues that I work with, the teams that I've worked with in the last 6 years have been amazing, and they have been my greatest advocates. They've been my greatest mentors, and just the accepting of, this person is learning, and let them learn. And that's something that's really, really, really good about Civica, is that they do have that ethos. And it's all about the continual learning and investing in yourself. It's about the people. If the people aren't happy, then you're not going to make good work. They're not going to do good work. So I mean, find yourself that mentor or the advocate, or just somebody you can talk to and be completely honest with. Accept that you can't know everything, and find a friend, find a mentor.
Good points, Laura. Really brilliant. One other thing that I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned actually that you are growing in your role, that your role is changing. That's really exciting. So do tell us, like, what you're going to be moving into, and what, like, as a product owner role, what does that involve, and how?
Jack of all, master of none. Yeah. No, so about 18 months ago, we had a new, 18 months or 2 years ago, we had a new MD come into the Belfast office, and he was shaking things up a bit, and he talked to all of us. We all had round tables, and we were all going on about innovation, and just not working on projects, having some of the time to be a bit more creative and think of our own things. So he set up an innovation team, which I was part of, and we answered a challenge by Belfast City Council in terms of parks and open spaces, basically. So we've developed this kind of platform using IoT sensors and AI, and various
Oh,
other things.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So, so from that, basically we had executive backup and everything, and they were really interested in bringing it on as a product. And so Sensei is now alive as a product, but I've been involved with it right since our first design meeting. It was me that brought the problem to the thing. So it's kind of my baby, and as part of that as well, and talking to we have sort of quarterly, monthly check-ins with our line management about where we want to go. And I'm 6 years in now, and I've kind of figured out the different roles available and the different things I want to try out. So product management, product ownership, which are technically two different things, but basically it's that you're almost that linchpin between the customer and the development team, basically. So you're the one sort of leading where the product goes,
Mm-hmm.
and translating what customers want into your roadmap and organizing all that. We're a small team, so there's only 4 of us. But I'm leading the team essentially, and so it's given me, so this next wee while, it's an early days product, as I have said before, failure can happen. And but we've just installed into our first actual customer
Wow.
last week. So yeah,
Congratulations, Laura. That's
yeah,
amazing.
no,
So
it's
coming from the idea to
yeah,
the
it's a,
design and inception
yeah. So it's a
the
really good
product,
milestone. So
amazing.
now I have not coded in probably over a month or two now.
Wow.
I finished up on all the other projects I was finishing on in terms of being a developer on. So now my day to day is sort of leading the team and figuring out where we're going next, and then dealing with the customers, dealing with various bids that we're putting in to try and get a few sales in and things. So it's a
Mhm.
really it's interesting. It's interesting. I miss code. I do miss code, but there's something just nice about fixing that bug or finishing that feature. But yeah, I'm getting the same buzz from going live and the new
Mhm.
customer, and seeing the things, and helping the team to stay on track. And it's great. It's
Such a personal development journey that
yeah,
is, Laura. It
definitely,
really
yeah,
is, and
yeah.
like you're now, like you've seen so many different areas and been involved in different projects, and
I
it's
suppose
great.
that's the nice thing about Civica,
Hmm.
is that I went in as the apprentice, so I started off actually with manual testing, so just going clicking buttons and telling things were saying where things were broken. From then on to automation, so running the automated test suite and making sure all of that kind of things. From then I was on to support desks, so business as usual as we call it here, which was firefighting and all of that kind of stuff, and responding to customers as and when needed. And then I went on to a full development role in for the criminal justice data sharing project. And I mean, I've come pretty much all of the software development life cycle. I've pretty much had a go at now, and yeah, so this is where I want to focus on for the next wee while. The nice thing about the industry is if you get tired of it after a
Get
while,
it?
I can either go back to coding if I want, or I can say, oh, okay, I want to be a project manager this time, or I want to do, So, and that's the nice thing about Civica as well, as they will facilitate that.
Hmm.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Laura. Like, your story is such an inspiration, and I'm sure anybody hearing this today, like, I hope that will make you see that, anything is possible. Take a chance, try something new. As Laura said, find yourself a friend. Don't be put off that there's so much to learn. You're not going to know everything. Oh, good product placement. you're not you're not going to know everything, but do take that chance, because there is a world of opportunity out there. And if you want to talk to us more, please do reach out. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can email us as well. We're Bring It On at belfastmet.ac.uk. We have Laura and lots of other fantastic ambassadors. We really appreciate all that you do, Laura, for Bring It On, and with the schools activity that you do as well. It's amazing, and really, I know you're gonna continue to go out and do that and be a great advocate for the sector going forward. And really think we're going to wrap up for today. But as I said, if you do have any questions for us, get in touch. And thank you, Laura, for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.